You know, on Long Island during the summer, a guy went to a drugstore and he killed 4 people to get some painkillers. I mean, life has no value. You know why? Because no one speaks about life as sacred. We're not teaching people that life is sacred and therefore has to be respected. That's not a value in our society anymore. You can't speak about that, but then people will say, well, why are we rewarding people? Why are we killing the elderly and not having respect? See, it comes together. And he was a prophet. He said this, you know. And so that's why I think he's someone we need. He did a very interesting study on history, and he put it this way. He said that every 500 years since Christ, time of Christ, the world and the church have gone through major, significant things that are going on. Okay? In the first 500 years in the world, he said, there was the collapse of the Roman Empire. How did this great empire collapse? In the church, he said, we had the heresies against the Trinity and against Christ, Arianism, worst history, denying the divinity of Christ. Next 500 years in the world, he said the world event was the spread of Islam. He points out Islam is the only world religion that has not only survived, but has thrived after the time of Christ. The only one. Okay? In the church, what happened? Separation between East and West, right? Orthodox. The Greeks, you know, leaving, breaking from Rome. Okay. The head of the church, the Pope, that was questioned. The next 500 years in the world, the discovery of the New World, the Americas, the Western Hemisphere, and so on. What happened in the church? The Reformation, Protestantism, right? The body of Christ was torn apart. And finally now, 2,000 years later, he said, what is the great event in our society? He said, it's the technology. The rate of change in our society today. You know, just think of it. We have things that 100 years ago were dreams. Airplanes, rockets, going to the moon, all those kind of things. You know. And he said, what's the challenge in the church? He said, secularism. The spirit of the world entering. Remember I said upstairs in the church about Atlas, we don't need God, we can run the world. That's secularism. You know, and we're rejecting God more and more. And St. Pope John Paul had said that in 1976, 2 years before he became Pope, he made a statement. He said the Catholic Church is in the greatest spiritual struggle of her 2,000-year history, and most Catholics are totally unaware this battle is going on. They don't see it, you know. And he said, but God has allowed it. And then he said, he said that this great struggle will go on. And he said, what's at stake is not one country or one aspect of our faith. It's the entire Christian culture that is built up for 2,000 years. Which the key foundation of a Catholic structure is the sacredness of each individual. We all have a dignity because we were made by God. The government doesn't give it to you, your parents don't give it to you. God gave you your dignity. And that's the basis of a Christian culture. We treat everyone with love and respect. We respect life from conception to natural death, see. Then, you know, the family. The family's under attack in this time, right? Same-sex marriages. It's undermining all our Christian values and then taking God out of the picture, right? I remember somebody must have bought one of my books with a $20 bill. On the back of the $20 bill it says, in God we trust. You know what somebody stamped over that? Get God off my money. And I said to myself, well, you know, maybe God figured, all right, you don't want me on your money? You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take back the money I gave you, and I'll leave you your money. So that's what I tell people, that's why we're running out of it. We're not turning to God. We're not asking God to bless us. And He's the source of our blessings. We've taken these blessings for granted. That's why we must bring Christ back into the picture. We can't live without Him. And His Holy Mother is showing us the way. And I think Bishop Sheen is a great hero of our time. You know, I lost my watch today. I don't have time. You got to let me know if I'm going too long. Go like this. You know what I mean? Oh, right there. Okay. All right. Now, because people tell me, you know, Father, you could listen to talk all day. I said, yeah, I could talk all day. I don't want to keep you all here all night. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Bishop Sheen's life, okay? He was born in a little town called El Paso, Illinois, May 8th, 1895. His father was Newton Sheen, and his mother was Delia Fulton. And when he was baptized Peter John Sheen. So he said, well, how do you get the name Fulton? You heard the mother's maiden name? Mm-hmm. See, when he was born, he had, the Fultons had, the Sheens had 4 sons. The first 3 came one right after the other. And the bishop was the oldest. So he was a colic child, and he was often crying. In fact, some neighbor referred to him as the baby that didn't stop crying. You know? So to help their daughter, the Fultons used to come and take little Peter John out for a stroll in the town in El Paso, Illinois. And people kept saying, oh, there's Fulton's kid, this is Fulton's kid. And the name started to get attached to him. And he liked it. So when his grandfather took him to sign up at school at St. Mary's Parochial School there, the Cathedral School in Peoria, the nun asked, what's his name? And he said, the grandfather said, his name is Fulton. And the name stuck with him. And years later, somebody said to him, you know, there's no St. Fulton. And he said, not yet. And you know, we got a lot of boys. This little boy, in the miracle, he's James Fulton. You know, one of the other possible miracle cases, his name is Fulton. His first name is Fulton. And I've gotten a number of people telling me they're naming their children Fulton. So, interestingly, at his baptism, after he was baptized, his mother placed him on the altar of the Blessed Mother and consecrated him to Our Lady. And he used to say that consecration was like a magnet, drawing him to Our Lady, you know. He renewed that himself on the day of his first Holy Communion, you know, and from that day on, he said the Rosary every day and the Litany of the Blessed Mother, okay. He had that great love of the Blessed Mother. He used to call her the woman I love. And so he went into grammar school. One very interesting thing that happened, he was serving the Mass at the cathedral. He was in the cathedral school. And he was serving the Mass for Bishop Spalding. And during the Mass, he dropped the cruet. Because you can imagine on the marble floor. And he used to say in his talks later on, nothing sounds as loud as a glass cruet shattering on a marble floor in a cathedral in the presence of a bishop. So after the Mass was over, the bishop called him over, and, you know, he figured I'm going to get scolded now. And instead the bishop said to him, son, where are you going to go to school when you get big? Now there was a high school already named after the bishop. It's called the Spalding Institute. She said, I'm going to go to the Spalding Institute. See, that would sound like a politically correct answer, right? And the bishop said to him, no, I don't mean that. He said, I want you to go home, and I want you to tell your parents that someday you are going to go to the University of Louvain in Belgium, as I did. And you are going to be a bishop, as I am. He told that to him when he was 8 years old. Well, he got through grammar school and did very well academically. One neighbor said to his father, because his father owned a farm, by the way, he could not eat chicken. He said, I killed 20,000 of them. I can't stand eating chicken. Okay. And a neighbor said to his father, you know, because he was always liked to read books, he said, Newt, called his father, you know, Newt. He said, Newt, you know, that oldest son of yours, he's not going to amount to anything. He's always got his nose in a book, you know, instead of working on the farm. So, anyway, he went to high school. He graduated with valedictorian there at Spalding Academy, and then went on to college. It was a small college called St. Viator. But 2 important things happened there. He was on the debate team, and it was the night before Little St. Viator College was going to debate the University of Notre Dame. It was almost like David and Goliath. You know, this huge university, this little tiny college. And the night before the debate, the priest, who he was very friendly with, he said to him, Fulton, he said, you are one of the worst students I've ever had for public speaking. You have no natural aptitude for public speaking. Imagine telling that to Bishop Fulton. And then he said, all right, now I want you to give the talk you're going to give tomorrow. So he went through the talk once. I do it again, twice, 5 times. Finally the priest said to him, do you know what you're doing wrong? And he said, I think I'm not being myself. The priest said, that's exactly right. Well, he went out the next day, and little St. Viator, for the first time ever, beat Notre Dame in the debate. But he never forgot that. And he used to say, when people told me, you're a wonderful speaker, you're so gifted, he said, no, I have no natural talent. It all comes from my hour before the Blessed Sacrament. Remember, he was known for that. Made the holy hour. The second event in college that he said was, he said there are events in our life that determine the turning of our life. And this was the event, he said. At the end of his 4 years of college, he entered a national contest to get a 3-year scholarship, which would give enough money to pay for room and board to get a doctorate in any university, so on. So he entered that contest and he won. He was one of the winners. Won something like between $10,000 or $12,000 and $15,000 it was worth. Now I'm talking 1916, 17 there. Okay, a lot of money. Even now, but then, huge amount of money. So what does he do? He gets the scholarship, he runs to that priest, and Father, look, I won the scholarship. I can go to any university I want to. I can get any kind of doctorate, and isn't that wonderful, Father? And the priest challenged him. He said to him, Fulton, do you believe in God? He said, of course I do, Father. And the priest said, no, I mean, do you really believe in God? He said, well, I hope I do. He said, Fulton, you know that you have a vocation for the priesthood. You don't put off the priest. But Father, I could get any degree and then go to something. No, you don't put off the call of God. You know what he did? Ripped up a $15,000 scholarship and went to St. Paul in Minnesota. Okay?